Hello everyone, my name is Stephen Camden. I've got to say that this thing that is happening is an Evolve event supported by Arts Council England and is part of the British Library Living Knowledge Network. We're beaming to libraries around the country, so hello, libraries around the country, and also Becca, who's probably watching, is not very well, hi. We have a hashtag, if people are into that, which is hashtag StoryTalks Live. My name is Stephen Camden. I'm a writer, and I am really, really excited about the process of creating stories. And so I'm lucky enough to get to chat to people who create stories in different forms. And today I'm talking to Katriona Chapman and Joff Winterhart, who have both agreed that they want to be termed comic creators. So hi, Joff. Hi, Katriona. Hi, everybody. Is everyone all right? Right, you've had chocolate. I'm hungry. We'll get through it. We're fine. The kind of the running order of this basically is I'm gonna like get really excited and pick their brains about process for roughly an hour.
I'm gonna be really jaded.
Okay, yeah, he'll be jaded. What are you gonna go with?
I'm just gonna be scared.
Okay, good. Fear, jaded, childlike, Home Alone, and then we'll have like about half an hour, I guess, for questions and stuff, or for me to carry on getting hyped. So if everyone's all right, I want to start with something that it was something that, it was a quote that I found a long, long time ago. I don't know what you're like. When I'm at that point where an idea is starting to brew, partly through procrastination and partly because I want to be like, feel like I'm really doing it. I'm finding little quotes and stealing things and putting them up to give myself a sense of, yes, I'm kind of artist. And something a quote that I read from a screenwriter called Stephen Zalian, who wrote Awakenings and a bunch of other films. A quote that he said was, he believes it's possible to know too much about a story, that he feels that there has to be an element of discovery during the creation of it. What do you think of that?
I agree.
Do you agree?
Yeah. I agree with the two Stevens.
Yeah?
You and Stephen Zalian.
Yeah. In what way? In the sense of, so I guess what the question that kind of comes of that is the sense of how much do you like or need to know about where something is going at the very beginning? Can I ask you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that quote as well. I think it's inevitable that things will kind of take different directions as you go. Mm-hmm. And often the things that you think are going to be important turn out not to be and even end up getting cut, and then it takes its own new route. So. And
do you think, when you say things there, do you mean as big as like actual characters? Do you mean like feelings or themes, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I think occasionally just odd moments that you thought were going to be really funny and really crucial turn out not to be. You end up cutting them because you think that actually doesn't fit. But I think it's just because through the process, you find you hone in on what the story is that you want to tell. And I don't think you can really know it when you start. I don't know.
Would you agree with that as well, Joe?
Absolutely, I would.
So with that in mind then, because I sometimes tell myself when I'm not feeling great at the beginning, that that's a cop-out on my part.
At the very beginning, I feel great.
Okay.
And then I feel really depressed.
How far in are we talking when that switch happens?
2 weeks.
Yeah, same, completely the same.
2 weeks approximately. Yeah. I don't know, vaguely.
Okay, can I say then, is there any big paper? So one of my editors, who I work closely with and have a really good friendship with, is like very, very different. He's a writer himself, and he won't start like a sentence before he's played the whole thing out in his mind.
Oh no!
Right, and we have these kind of like slightly romantic. That's not writing, that's not art. But really, it's just a different way of working. But on the days when I'm sitting there not feeling good and things aren't kind of starting to click, I wonder if I'm being overly romantic about this notion of discovery and wandering. And do you ever kind of force yourself early on to try to plan, or is it more of what starts it? Is it a feeling that you're following, or is it like a detail, or there's a lot of questions in one? Joff's thinking. I'll ask you, Katriona. What do you think?
Well, the thing it makes me think of was I had a conversation with another comic artist recently about the fact where we differed was that I write my stories in like a script first before I do any drawing, and he doesn't. Yeah, and he doesn't do that. And I think it's because I don't necessarily love drawing that much that I want to draw loads of stuff that's then going to get cut in the editing process.
Yeah.
So I do refine the story to a point where I'm happy with it before I start drawing.
And what kind of document does that look like? Can I ask?
It's like a film script.
Okay.
But I break down panel by panel.
Is it handwritten or
Because
like typed?
I type it.
Do you handwrite it like
I
in
do
note form
sometimes.
first?
I do draw little tiny thumbnails of the panels because I have to work out what's happening across the page.
Wow.
But yeah, I just don't. I know some creators that start drawing and they just like to work like that.
Yeah.
But that scares me a little bit because I know I would do so much work that would end up getting cut.
Yeah.
And
Well,
also I work
interesting.
with an editor, so it's easier for me to show him it's quick to type
Yeah.
a script.
And bear in mind what we were saying earlier, in the sense of if you've got that document or that script of the sense of the story, is that in your mind then like a skeleton that is like danced around and is free to change, or do you feel yourself pulling you? Is it? Do you know what I mean? Is it restrictive? Is it clarifying? Is it? In the past, has it changed a lot? I guess is a good way to get into the.
Yeah, we will. I'll then send that to my editor and we'll go over it and make changes.
Okay.
But I find it reassuring to have that kind of
Yeah,
basic thing worked out.
So it's like it's almost like before you can even see it. There's a story. There's a story that you are now. You almost have to make visual.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me.
But I know that's not how everyone
No,
works.
it's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating.
That's
Joff, what do
really
you think?
professional. No wonder you got a perspective.
We were talking before. I was watching them earlier on. Just read each other's work and admire each other's work. We could just do that for a little bit if you want. But I'll try and justify my presence, whatever. But I think that.
Yeah, I mean, actual
does that
perspective,
seem different or alien to you, Joff?
Yeah, I always thought like that's probably how proper people did it, definitely. But I can't do it like that myself.
And what do you mean? What is it that you think you can't do? Is a sense of like.
I couldn't write the whole thing, like the script and the narration and the dialogue, and then just like go sequentially and draw the drawings in order. You draw the, or do you move around?
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what do you go with? What you feel like you want to do?
A little bit.
But that sounds gorgeous, right? Because that's like.
It can have its disadvantages.
Which are what?
Because you can find that you've drawn someone with the wrong hairstyle, because you're jumping around in time,
Okay.
and then you go back to
Amazing.
it. Oh no!
How much are you jumping around then? Just like, how do you decide which scene you're gonna, or which sort of section you're gonna draw?
Well, this book was my first proper book, and I didn't want to start drawing page one because I thought it might take a little while for the style to settle into a consistent thing. And I thought if I start in the middle and then do the start later,
I think that's really logical.
I might be better at drawing by that point.
I've had the things I've made. I have drawn them very, very slowly, sequentially, and I have had to go back and think like that just doesn't look like how the character.
Right.
Yeah.
So the character found itself during the process of.
Yeah, because you've been, if you've been drawing a character for like 2 years, it's different than if you've been drawing them very sort of, embryonically for the first couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So I have. Sometimes I think I can get away with that. He looks a bit more like a baby, but don't worry about that. Or he looks more like
He's younger at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And like his physical decline is mirroring mine sometimes. But that's just sitting at a desk for a long time.
But I love the idea of thinking about that. About the idea of almost like continuity errors, where you might have earlier on the hairstyle will be slightly off, and for the nerd in me and the brain will be like, look at that panel. Do you know what I mean? Like. Those little kind of gorgeous things that remind you that a person made it as opposed to, I think that, okay, I guess. So if we're saying that so in relation to that, Joff, can I come to you in a sense that you don't have that document? No. So it's like, but it's a question for both of you as well. I'm like, maybe I'll come to you first in the sense of.
I need that document.
Maybe,
can I get
but
one
obviously
too?
not because things get finished anyway. So it's like, does it, whether it feels good or not, but what does
Feels more
start it then?
desperate.
What does start it then? Is it?
Well, the catalyst, the initial start is just like, the idea can come from lots of different places or like several places that, kind of an accumulation.
Are there things that you remember in relation to work that you've kind of done that kind of stick out, whether it be a snippet of a conversation or a certain person or a feeling of because I want to get to place in a bit, but I mean, do you know, like in terms of how things began, or was it too...
It's like different for every. I mean, I haven't made a huge amount of books, but both have different kind of, very, very beginnings. Of both of them are pretty different.
Yeah.
but then, you know, the things that feed into them are sort of, you know, the cross between experience and your subconscious, I think. You know, but in terms of like planning it out, it's really impressive. Mine is just on like 2 pages at a time.
But do you try to do that if you think it's impressive, or have you like kind of gone, right, this is not what I am, or do you try? Because I always try and attempt different things.
Yeah, I would like to do it differently, because the way I do it now is really scrappy and a bit torturous, because it's sort of blobbing along as opposed to like a cool line, you know. But my narrative is pretty minimal, so it's not like I need to work out, you know, like chapter 4 he gets his spy license or anything like that. You know. It's not like that. So I think I'm only able to do it in this really slow way because there's so little happening.
Well, then that leads me to another question that I'm really fascinated by, and we'll come to more detail about that a little bit later, but in the sense of how much that has to mirror the content.
Yeah.
You know, can I write a story that feels inherently like a cumulative and feeling like watching somebody struggle with time and how time is passing and having that kind of feel to it? Could I do that, or could you do that if you knew and it was neater and it was more driven in a sense? Is there something in potentially having to find itself and the process mirroring the actual quality of the work when it's finished?
That's a good question.
Doesn't that make sense? 'Cause
it does make sense, but I think it's more like a byproduct of the weird, you know, slightly annoying way I'm doing it or whatever. I would like to be more like that, because, you know, like a film director has that. You know, I like a lot of, you know, I like films, and I like, you know, kind of, you know, people who know what they're doing. But I just don't seem to be able to know what I'm doing.
But here's the thing, though. Right, so I'm gonna play devil's advocate, because not only do you know what you're doing things.
Eventually, at the end, I
but
do.
you're creating this beautiful stuff. So it's like, right. So what is the gauge of the measure of like? Are there ideas that start and then just completely peter out?
Yeah, like what you were saying about you kind of start off with like, I know these 3 things are going to probably be in it, and one of them will probably not be in it, or it'll be a totally minor thing, even though it's one of the first things you thought of. I definitely know that one.
Does that so like in something like that, which feels so full in your book, sorry, Katriona, like, and there are what didn't come in? What did you get rid of, and what did feel right to get rid of when because it feels like there's so much, you know?
Yeah, I'm thinking because I'm working on a book at the moment, my second one. I was thinking more of that one, where I had some ideas of what would be in it, and they are gradually kind of disappearing as I work on.
In terms of what it's about, or particular.
Just I'm writing about some people that work together in a cinema. And
That sounds good.
Yeah,
He's in.
thank you. And I did have this idea that there would be lots of funny customer interactions, and that would be the light-hearted part. And then I'm thinking more and more that it's maybe not necessary, or that, well, the thing with comics, you're always trying to cut pages because are you not? I write too much, and then I know it's going to take me so long to draw that I'm always trying to cut. So
see, that's why. Apart from I couldn't do it like logically, like you, where you write the script. That's another reason why I couldn't do it, because I'd just be thinking like, oh, I've got so much. I'd know how much work I had to do, and that would be so disheartening. I don't think I'd ever do it.
Maybe it's better not to know.
Yeah, man, just make it up as you go along.
So do you think when those kind of like, oh, there's so much to do, are you thinking in relation to like this translates to this many weeks, this many months?
Yeah.
Oh man, so
do you have a big wall planner?
No, I don't really.
With crosses on it.
I don't.
Well, you do a countdown.
Yeah, like, you know.
No,
down.
I just work out roughly how many I think I can draw in a day, and then how many days I have free in the week, because I work other jobs too.
Yeah,
so
how many other jobs do you have?
I have two, two part-time, very part-time jobs.
I've just like one job.
So how many can you draw in a day? How does that work? Obviously it changes,
Pages
of course, but like, I'm fascinated by the idea of someone going, right, it's Tuesday at 4.
Well, I just have to look at the whole, like it's going to be about 150 pages, and I can probably do, and there's the rough stage, and then there's the final art stage, because I draw sort of thumbnails first. Yeah. So you have to plan how long you think these things are going to take.
And how long does it take if you went, right, okay, from when I first let's forget the thought and even the script bit, from like pen or pencil first time to like click send to whoever it is. How long's that for both of you?
It varies with
Yeah.
the project a little bit.
But how long? How long was?
That one took a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very long.
How long was very long?
I'm really bad at dates,
That's all right.
knowing how long.
No, it's okay.
That was a good couple of years, I think.
Yeah. And how about you, Joff?
Um,
Do you are you conscious of it, or is it just the kind of thing of like, right?
I'm very, very conscious of it. I am. I think it's like I always, both times that I've spent like about 1 year doing it vaguely, and then 3 years. This one like took 3 years. The thinner one took like a year of like intense work afterwards.
Yeah.
So there's like 2 stages, like second gear and then like fifth gear.
So here's a question then.
I can't even use the car analogy. Gross.
What?
God, I feel like Jeremy Clarkson. Sorry.
You don't view him
He's got.
remotely like Jeremy Clarkson.
I don't want to have his leg. He's got legs like economy toilet rolls. You know those extra like double toilet roll,
Genuinely
kitchen
don't have to
roll.
worry about any kind of blurring between the images of the two people at all, mate.
Good.
In my opinion. Right.
I don't want to be like him.
Can I ask something then, right? Has this ever happened whereby during the course of the creation, with you know working to the kind of the bones or skeleton of a script or not, where an idea that's felt quite tangential, but really kind of, ooh, there's something in that. What do you do then? Does it become something you try and weave in, or can you start a thing and then put it to the side? Is your brain capable, or do you then veer and then have to come back to the original thing? Do you know what I mean? Like those little things, do they happen?
Yeah.
Or is it because I guess the difference is, like you say, if I'm writing or I'm typing something down, an idea for a person pops into my head, I grab the paper. Yeah. It's not for this, it's for something else. Oh, something about his brother. Or what if there was a character, not for this story, but quickly, in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, I've done like a character sketch and a possible like idea for a thing in the drawer gone. Yeah. Whereas if you are at that point where you are creating and every day is becoming this many done and the work to be done, I would, in my mind, however naive it sounds, it's like the idea of a tangent becomes maybe less likely or less allowed. Is that fair to say, or does it happen still?
For me it does. Yeah, for me, I'll always be sure to write it down, and you know, it wouldn't necessarily get used, but I'd always write it down because my memory is not the best. Yeah. So, and then I always think like, oh, it's the best idea I had, and I forgot it. You know, and it probably is not the best idea I've ever had, but I haven't had that many good ideas. So you've got to use what you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and there will always be little other jobs that you have to do in the meantime. I mean, at one point I was putting out a regular zine, and so during working on that, I put out 2 issues of my little zine, so I had to schedule the time to do that. And you might get the odd freelance job that you just have to drop everything and squeeze that in.
No, completely.
I feel relieved if I ever get like an extra. I mean, I don't make any zines. I'm not like you're Katie, where I'm Katie's here too, and she's a very prolific person. I'm just like monotask and you know, wanting to be doing something else often. You know, like anything.
But do you find then if you're saying as well, Katriona, that there are other things to be done constantly? Is there like a dream scenario where all that stuff just fades away and you do this, or do you? Because I'm like half my time is spent in schools and working with young people and stuff. And I've got friends who very much view that as, like, I don't know, quote unquote, bread and butter, and then, which is fine. Yeah. But I find if I'm not around, if I'm not in rooms, then
it's just you on your own.
It's just me, I just can't. Or whether that's I've just become my own worst enemy, or so I mean, do you think that in a weird way, there's like an energy that feeds?
Yeah, definitely. I think in a weird way, that is a fantasy, this idea of I could lock myself in a cottage somewhere and just do this, but the reality would probably be that you would go insane.
For like 2 days in a row, it's cool. And then you do need the outside stimulus, you know, other humans. It's very lonesome.
No, completely agree with you. So in relation to, like, have you ever been on a retreat, like on purpose? Yeah. I'm going here and I'm going to carve my opus. I'll see you in 10 days.
Who's that? The Death of the Salesman. What's that? Arthur Miller.
Yeah.
I know he wrote. He built. He built a cabin and then he wrote Death of the Salesman in it.
All right.
I've not built anything.
Have you ever built a cabin, Katriona?
No, I cabin.
I've been to a cabin,
Right.
and I did do my book
For how
there.
long? And you did it?
Yeah, for like 3 days, and I felt like really like important. But the first day, I just like had existential ennui
Yeah, me
instead.
too. I just watched the Olympics.
Yeah.
They sent me to a
Had
cottage.
the Olympics been on and they had a TV there, I would have done that. Yeah.
It was
But then the second day and third day, I did do some work.
Okay.
Yeah, and I felt like really virtuous.
Of course.
And then I came home and like my workroom had flooded, so it's like, oh, maybe it's karma.
Yeah. You shouldn't have neglected your like.
Should have built my own shed.
How about you? Have you locked? I know there are things to juggle, but have you ever kind of purposely crafted time? And if so, if you have and gone to like, I don't know, the Seychelles, or I don't know where that is. I don't know. That's a place. Did it work? Is what I'm saying.
I haven't gone anywhere as a retreat. But I've done a retreat where I've just said to friends, like, I'm not going to be doing social things
How
for
long?
a certain
Domestic
amount of
retreat?
time. Yeah, just.
How long was it?
I don't know. I'm not the most social person anyway, so it was like probably a couple of months.
Wow. And did it work?
And I would do it the occasional thing, but the thing is, I
Did
also
you get
do
dressed?
not very often.
Oh wow!
See, that's the real
wild.
motivation.
But I also have these jobs, so that takes me out of the house as well.
Yeah.
And
What kind of jobs are you doing?
I do, I do marketing for a small comics publisher, and that's not very many hours. I do that like 1 hour a week, 1 hour a day, Monday to Friday in the mornings. And then a couple of evenings a week I work at the National Theatre in London, which is a job I got when I was a student years and years ago, and I just tear tickets and sell ice cream.
Yeah.
You get to see the shows.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what I like about that is that it's the contrast from being a recluse to being in this
completely.
huge, busy building where thousands of people come through the door.
But all stories as well.
But then you're so busy, it puts your other projects out of your head, and it gives you a bit of a break.
Is it one of the inspirations for your cinema
Kind of,
thing?
yeah.
That's so cool.
I did work in a cinema.
But
as
interesting
well.
as well, like you need to say, I've got these 2 jobs. It's not like you came out and went, right, I bricklay on a Monday and like I clean the zoo on the thing. Like these are things that are really heavily connected to story and the sharing of it. So maybe there's something in that they're not too far away, that there's more fuel in that potentially than I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, well, the job in publishing has been really helpful. I mean, I've made contacts with lots of brilliant people, reviewers and critics and things, because that's part of my role, which is helpful. But I do think the theatre thing, even though it's different form, you can learn a lot from. I mean, I've watched every play that the National's had on for about 18 years.
Yeah, amazing.
And then when I did write the script for this new book, my editor said to me, it's very dialogue heavy. I think you've been watching too many plays. And I was like, oh,
that's what
that might be the problem.
Completely.
I'm into it. I love dialogue.
Yeah. They always told me that there's too much dialogue and not enough description in the manuscripts when I hand them over. And I'm like,
It's a compliment, yeah.
I think so. So it's one of those things where, okay, look, I've come here, smoothly just turning the page to the next bubble, which says place, right? And
you should show the people in TV land.
TV land.
I like the font.
Can you zoom?
It's good font.
Thanks. It took me ages. No,
Hello, Ian.
I guess just obviously this place is obviously important, whether that's consciously or not, but definitely consciously it clearly is, and not only in terms of. Tell me, there is a difference between writing about yourself. Just how does place? Is place as important as it seems to be to both of you? Consciously, do you feel like it's like there's a drive to like put these things in these places and go like, I'm communicating the experience of being in them? You know, very different places in the book. I'm zooming in now on driving short distances, Joff, by the way, sorry, right? And follow me, yeah, literally zooming in. But such definite places. Yeah. And places in relation to people figuring and working these things out. So it's like, does place come after person or?
Yeah, for me, I think it does.
Okay.
Like, I think of the humans, and then I think, oh shit, well, where are they?
Yep.
And in the case of this, this has a weird relationship to place. Firstly, because I'm not really, like, here's how to do it, kids. Katriona, she draws these beautiful pictures and they have backgrounds and, it has an atmosphere. But I'm so bad at doing, doors and windows and, like, the insides of rooms. that
The heart of an atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. So for place, I mean,
But it's
but
reference.
nevertheless,
But I guess, I'm with you in the sense. Okay, right. You're talking before, like you were talking about perspective and things behind and whatever. But it's all there, Joff.
I know, but I have to do it through sort of like, either description in the text or just like very certain details, which I think I can draw, but I don't fill it out fully. So I do kind of hope and like count on the reader. I mean, I like to read books. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. No, sorry, that sounds weird. Okay, scratch that from the manuscript. Edit this part out, kids. Sorry. I didn't say I like to read books. That doesn't make any sense. But I do like to read books. But as a reader, I think the readers do, when you're reading text, sometimes you can read a very minimalist book, but because the characters are evocative or whatever, they don't need, loads and loads and loads of visual description about like the inside of a room. You just sort of like feel it from the world that has been created. Some people really go for it, like like I don't know, like Tolkien or whatever, or anyone who's making a whole world. But this is a very mundane, minimal world, and there's a reason for that. Is that I didn't have to do loads of
you said there's a reason for it. There's a practical reason for that, but all that stuff can't be separate in your brain. The awareness of it being minimal, if it's practically in one level, on another level, it's minimal because that's what the story is, right? This story is, and what comes first, and maybe it kind of changes, but it fits, right? These things fit. So it's not whether they find themselves during the course of the making of it or whether it's intentional. If this story, these characters in a world that was quote unquote deeper or richer, like in your face, would be a completely different thing, right?
It would. It's a different atmosphere, I guess.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's what I mean. I guess that's what I mean by place. So
Yeah.
maybe I mean less. Maybe that's a much better way of saying it in the sense of I don't mean place. I mean atmosphere. I mean feel, and I mean color, and I mean space, and I mean like.
And the location, though, the actual like locations in this story are meant to be like trading estates, which are quite mysterious and very plain. And I did research, which I really got into. But the research was just like walking around trading estates and like occasionally.
But that's exactly what comes across.
Well,
No, but
But they're still mysterious places to me. But now, I didn't really think about them before, and now I think about them all the time. That's like something that is, and now I'm just like naturally interested in them. Whereas before, they were just like somewhere,
Yeah, of course.
like
Stuff
home
happens
base,
in there.
or it was like, now they're covered in mist, like like the moors of like Avalon, or like somewhere. They're like a mythic place to me now.
Completely.
And that's one of the things I do like about making stories. Is like the thing that you never thought about before becomes of some interest to you forever. Forever after that, or like the the demographic of people that you maybe were looking at.
Yeah.
Now you always feel like weirdly endeared to them or interested
Completely.
in
Spending that much time, and particularly when you're crafting visuals and spending that much time and work to bring these things. Visual representation, maybe potentially even more, in the sense that you can close your eyes and just constantly see them. Does that happen? Is that when you're in it? Are you literally like blinking, going, oh, "There's another panel"? Do you know, is there? Do you know what I mean?
A little bit, yeah. If you're working very intensively, it can be all that you think about. Which,
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the mundane. You were talking about the mundane. I really like that in stories, and I think it's important to leave spaces because the reader can do their own.
Yeah.
Take part in the story. So yeah, I don't think cramming in loads of detail like I did with that book is.
I really love detail, as opposed to like sometimes I can't take like epic scale where like I'm not really. I always think I'm like really. I know I'm not particularly imaginative because like if I'm reading a science fiction book.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of science fiction book where it's describing, like a world inside of like a spaceship with a world inside of it, and then someone is, in this jungle on the edge of this spaceship, and I just get really lost. I can't visualize it, and I just think, my imagination must be really weak, and I just can't, I think, where are we again? What's that guy with the third elbow? He's got this.
So it's and that is entwined with a sense of what you yourself want to communicate and put out is stuff that shows itself in that way. That is not that So that's part of a drive in terms of the way things come out and the taste and your own kind of style.
Yeah, I guess that's
Must
just
be,
my
right?
kind of one, my comprehension, and two, my sort of taste, I suppose,
Yeah.
or my particular what I'm drawn to.
Completely.
To include.
Can I ask
or leave
them,
out.
in relation to this one, Katriona, in a sense of the amount of time, and clearly, like not only in terms of amount of time looking back at something and kind of documenting, and how much must have been documented at the time, and all this, your house must have been covered in all this stuff, right? This new thing that you're working on now, it's interesting that you go, right, Mexico and like a continental, right, I want a cinema. Right? Do you think that's an accident, or is that like a craving? Do you think that's come out of potentially being born of the scale and scope to kind of really like zoom in?
Possibly, yeah. I think so. Well, that also it's different in that that's a memoir, that's autobio, and the one I'm doing isn't. Although there's always a crossover. Fiction is kind of autobio, and autobio is fiction, is what they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely wanted to do something quite different. And I am interested in ideas of place and people and how they affect each other. So that's something that is a theme of the book I'm working on, I think.
Is there something then, like, in terms when you say you're interested in kind of place and people and how they interact, is there something about the transience of a cinema or a cafe or something where people are coming for a thing or they're working there? It's not, no one lives there, you know. So is there something that's interesting in that you want to do?
I think so. I've drawn a lot of kind of empty interiors for this
Awesome.
book because the publisher I work for is Avery Hill Publishing.
Yeah.
We published a book at the start of this year where by Claire Scully, who's a really brilliant illustrator, and she just does empty landscapes.
Wow.
And I was really inspired by her and thought I should have some empty spaces.
Gorgeous, but empty spaces in a building where people come en masse to sit close together and look up at a screen, like places that exist for people to inhabit, as opposed to a natural landscape, which is do you know what I mean? So that's in itself is almost, to my mind, I'm more drawn to that in a sense of an emptiness where it's supposed to be populated, you know, and what that means and what that communicates.
Yeah.
I want to read this now. How far are you in? How far are you into?
Not very far.
Can we have an ETA, please? All right, then.
I just wouldn't be able to draw the chairs.
Oh, the chairs. Oh, God, you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
That is the worst.
What, are you going
Chairs
old school?
going backwards,
And
right?
Is it old school? Oh, it's an old school
Like
one. It's not
curved
like a new...
rows, and all the chairs are curved themselves, and getting the perspective.
But it's not like a new one of the new modern like race car driver seat thing. It's an old...
it's a bit of a kind of rundown.
I could draw the drink holders in those modern cinemas, but not the chair.
Oh, gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm dreading those pages.
And do you know who the people are yet? Have you zoomed in and looked up?
Yes. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing. So there somewhere in the book there are sketches and there are drawings of these people that exist. Awesome. Right. You ready to like seamlessly move along to my next bubble?
Yeah. I like this one. I like this subject.
Right.
Is it like a quiz now?
No.
A pop quiz.
I could ask you a pop quiz if you want, but
I like that music.
Okay, it's music, right? So music. I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you two quotes. Right, the first one, which it sprung to my mind when I read "Follow Me In," was a Tennessee Williams one, which said, "In memory, everything seems to happen to music." What do you reckon to that?
Pretty good. He's clever.
Yeah.
I really like that.
No, but do you know what I mean? Like and for better and for worse, for clearer and unclear. And you saying, you know, autobiography becomes fiction and the blur between the two, and it is, in essence, it is. Oh, okay, right. And the second quote.
I like that one though.
No, it was good. Right, okay. The second quote. I think it's Capote. Truman Capote said, "To me, the greatest pleasure of writing is not what it's about, but the music the words make." Right. So if we take words and we have them, and next to them we have images, or instead of them we have images. So like what it's about, the music, I guess. What do you think that means? What I know what that means to me, but in sense of the music that they make, what does that mean to you? Does it mean anything to you? Does that mean something to you? And is that something that feels like it's conscious during the doing, not just in terms of pace, but in terms of, I guess I don't want to. I have my own thoughts, but I guess I want to hear of like, does it feel like we are musical? Are these things musical? These things that they...
What do you know?
Do you know what I mean?
You're a musician.
Yeah, you are literally a musician.
That not true.
You have a band.
Literally.
Joff has a band.
But I'm a drummer.
That's a musician, mate.
They're like just,
Tell him.
they're just like loud.
That's a musician.
And I'm a drummer, and I'm a really primitive, bad drummer. I've only got one hand.
What's your band's name?
Bucky, Bucky, Bucky.
Yo.
And it's just two people. It's pretty bad. And I hit the drum like that with my arm like that, like a human drumstick.
Yeah.
And I just use one drumstick.
So in that
and I
case,
have two drums.
Okay.
So you can imagine, a musician is not really.
Mate, I'm not
my job description.
I'm not having it. Musician, right? Here's how it works. So what's interesting?
I mean, I go to bed quite late, but apart from that, I'm not.
Do you have any leather?
No. No, well, these shoes.
Bam.
I'm a vegetarian, but obviously not very committed because I've got leather shoes.
But look then, so like if you make music physically in a band,
I love music.
right?
Okay, I do have an answer. Okay,
Come on.
This is an answer. No, that's not my answer. You know Chris Ware, the cartoonist. He's like a really, really brainy cartoonist, and he's kind of like the kind of overlord of many cartoonists. Even though he's very sort of self-loathing, sort of a shy man, but anyway, he's a sort of master cartoonist, and he's like top of the tree, blah blah blah. And he says, maybe it's not even him. Maybe it's like Seth or some other cartoonist. But one of these big, huge American cartoonists. Although Seth's Canadian. Sorry, Canada. What was I saying?
You were saying music.
Oh yeah. So they say, I can't really listen to music when I'm drawing or writing because it's like, it's its own rhythm, it's its own, it's its own music. It has its own rhythm. It's like notes it's like musical notation on a page. So I just have total silence. That is not me.
Fascinating.
I do the writing and everything in silence or with like instrumental music, like piano music or like
scores.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No lyrics. But then, and it's torturous and I hate it, and I'm just like tearing my hair out. But then I get to draw and I get to have like music,
Whoa.
and I just have music all the time.
It's that clear a distinction.
Yeah.
When I'm writing and I'm finding the thing, when I know what it is, once I know what it is, whack on the music.
Yeah, and then that's the only reason I'm able to do comics is because it's like a really good way to listen to music and excuse to listen to music, which because I love music. Music is far more interesting than comics. Sorry, Katrina. Sorry, comics fans. But comics are great. Books are great.
All right, then come on.
Music is the best.
So, Katrina, two things. Right,
your turn.
He's brought up another point there, but the first point being,
which is the best?
Conscious. Are you conscious? Does it sound pretentious, or does it feel truthful to say that this feels like music, that we feel musical?
That is a difficult question.
Yes.
I definitely think about pacing a lot. I've always thought of it more as like film, because I see the scene, I try and envisage the scenes unfolding and, as if it was a film, and then I try and draw that. So music, I don't really know.
Well, I guess to my mind anyway, it's kind of all the same in the sense that the music of it being just the choices, like you say, the choice of when to cut, the choice of when to stay, the choice of when to repeat, and the choice of when to have space.
When you want to slow things down.
Exactly, and when you want to step out and step back in. Like there's the gorgeous bit with the flash forward and like the thing where they meet up towards the end, the scene, not the end, but it's before the end, and it's like, right, the choice to put that there would be that point in my mind where you listen to an album and there's just like a certain interlude or a song where you kind of go, what, and then you come back to it, but it informs what comes around it. So I don't know, I'm not ready to let go of the romantic notion that we're musicians, because I want that to be how I think about it, I guess. But practically then, going on the back of what Joff was just saying, can you listen while you are making? Or is there like a clear distinction like he does where it's like, right, amazing. Is there really?
Exactly the same. At the early stages, I like just dead silence.
But it's so fun.
Yeah.
When I did this last one with Jenny and Kevin, who are authors, who are writers, who write writing prose to hand over, both of them said, no music. No music. This is to be, and then when I'm going back in, potentially like a score or something, right? But they both love music. Then when they want to break, they'll have music. So to hear you say at that bit where you're finding it and kind of right, no. But then when I almost like the fun, when I get to then it's music.
Yeah.
That's a similarity, right? That there's something in that where it's like a part of the brain which almost doesn't want influence or wants to kind of know that it's generating it itself. Maybe does that sound?
And I feel like there are certain stages that are kind of, you can go into autopilot, like if you're colouring sometimes. And I feel like my brain can do that. And I listen to podcasts and audiobooks and stuff just because I want that part of my brain to just be occupied with something else.
So that's other people talking, that's not even strictly like music, is it?
I mean music as well,
Yeah.
but I
What
like
music?
being distracted by other stories so that I can just colour and not...
wow.
Yeah, colouring in is like another stage.
So it's like there's a line to it. There's like a...
Yeah,
There's like... Is that too crude to say? Like in the sense...
No, there is like, different areas of doing
different
stuff, right?
phases,
And one of them is taxing in a certain way and the other one is taxing in a different way, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, when you know, because like when I'm drawing, I kind of vaguely know what the things I'm meant to be drawing. Otherwise, I just, I'm not making them up on the spot. It's like a list, isn't it? You think I have to draw that person's elbow, or you have to draw someone putting on a tie, or and then it has to be the right music. I don't just go.
That's what I'm saying. What music?
Oh well, that's
no. Just choose. Give me something. Give me something, right, that I can put on when I get home and imagine that I'm doing what you're doing, right? If you've just finished something when you know you're ready and you're itching to draw, right? And you've got anything, you've got the World Library of music, and you've got it cranked up. There's no one else in, and you're going to get to some drawing.
Well, for this book, I would have different kinds of music for that one.
Of course. Well, tell me this one then, please.
There was like a lot of depressing men singers.
Like?
Because this is all crusty sounding men singers. Well, like country and western, or like American folk music. Mm-hmm. I mean, even though it's very British, I listen to a lot of American. I mean, I generally listen to probably like a lot of American music, but also because there was sort of like the older guys in it, and it was kind of grizzled. So then I don't know. I'd listen to like Townes Van Zandt.
Yeah,
you know him.
I do really well.
Or like John Prine. These kind of like, so there's stories in there. There's quite narrative songs, country and western songs, but also I would listen to, trying to think of something like less in that bracket that I would also, just often quite like sad or slow songs because this is quite a melancholic story.
Yeah.
So I guess.
So it's interesting because even then, because in my mind I thought you were like, right, I'm ready to draw now. I'm going to just shock out.
Yeah.
But it still has to feel and has the.
Yeah, you can't put anything on.
Well,
or like right now, I'm doing a story and it's about like a woman who's like really in history. Mm-hmm. So I'm listening to like English folk music because if I listen to like grizzly American men, it would probably be
okay. So there is a fitting, there is a kind of association because how about you, Katriona? It's like are there things that come back, or is it just more the sense of something else coming in at this point, or are there ones that you kind of come back to certain albums or soundtracks or anything?
Not really.
Yeah.
I do think I do listen to more podcasts to like talk-based stuff than music when I'm drawing.
Yeah.
There's something about if I like really long ones because if I'm going to sit down and draw all day and I find a podcast that's 3 hours and I know I'm going to enjoy it or something and it's telling a story,
so it's almost like
that
stepping
keeps
out.
Me it stops me from getting bored and kind of fidgety because I'm enjoying that while this is kind of autopilot.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing to think that a podcast created is what facilitates you to get the thing finished, which is going to make something.
Yeah, and if I'm excited to hear the podcast, I'm more happy to sit down and draw for 3 hours.
Awesome.
I'll be
so what can I pry and ask what podcast?
Oh, I listen to all sorts.
Yeah. But talky ones you were saying, like overtly narrative ones, like kind of theatrical ones, like that are made like with or just people talking about.
Sometimes interview ones where they talk to someone in depth. Sometimes, just telling I do some sort of like, I know it's a cliche, but a true crime. People are into that. But they'll sometimes take a particular story and then go into it in so much depth.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Where I can get really engrossed.
Yeah.
And it's
I would find that too distracting. See, with music, it's easier to dip in and out, and it's not like, oh no, I've missed verse 3 of my favourite song. But if I was concentrating on a sort of complicated narrative like that, and I would just sort of stop and just
you do miss bits now and again.
I was going to say, are you like following the whole thing? Wow.
But it's almost like you said, at that stage, I need something in. That's what's fascinating to me is like, right, at what point that would happen. And then it becoming not functional, but functional on one level in a sense that you say, I need to know that if I'm going to be colouring all day, my brain needs to be stimulated as well, not just on the sense of, oh, watch out for that line or whatever.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Right. So, okay, I'm not going to ask
That was a good subject. I like
Thanks
that
very
one,
much,
yeah.
mate. Right. Look at my next one. It's the longest one.
Oh,
How we do for time? Ah, it's 1:45. Is everyone all right? Can you hear my stomach rumbling?
Are you really hungry?
Am I shouting as much as I feel like I'm shouting? I'm getting quite... Okay, right, I'll carry
Go
on.
louder.
Yeah, I was just hearing my mum's voice going,
Shout.
turn it down, Steve. Right.
Yeah, we were
Sorry,
talking
Mum.
about that
Sorry,
earlier
Mum.
when
She's not
parents go like
watching.
this.
This one I wrote down, this long word, is community, right? And we
Yeah.
kind of touched on what I mean by that and what I'm referencing in that earlier on, in this idea of the loneliness or the taking yourself away and the romanticism of that, or whether we like it, or how important it is for you to share bits along the way, or are you more of a like, right, not till I'm done, I'll see you in 4 or 5 months, maybe something. Are there dialogues that are important, essential, useful to you during it that would kind of like undermine this idea of this locked away in the tower with a quill, you know? Or do we like that? Or is that, do you know what I mean? Like, because I know what I'm like. If I go to the retreat, I watch the Olympics, get scared of the peacocks. I like make food. I don't do anything.
Scared of the peacocks.
Peacocks are terrifying, mate. They can't fly, but they can, right? They go up a tree. Anyway, it doesn't matter, right?
Flannery O'Connor, she loved peacocks.
They terrify me. But also, like because my work fits around like family and stuff, if I'm not constantly talking, like I talk to my partner about ideas and things all the time, without
Are
that,
they receptive?
she's incredible. They're incredible.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
And they're helpful, right?
because it's trust. It's like, you know me, and it's like sometimes it's just letting me vent, I guess. And other times it's questions and things that are like, it's like it's like a way better edit before an edit.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, even if it's just other artists, like, you know, you came with Katie tonight and stuff, there's a friendship and stuff. Like, it's weird, isn't it? Because I don't know what it's like. I live in London now, and there should be, in my opinion, way more communal things between people who make. And part of the reason why this is, do you know what I mean, it was exciting to me or wanted to kind of do, it doesn't really exist. And it's crazy to me that it doesn't. Because whether that's because it's this individualistic, like professional, like you've got to get, there's only so many spots or whatever, or whether it's just people want to be by themselves. Like, it was interesting, when I talked to Jenny and Kevin last time, they were very different. Like, Jenny was like, well, Jenny and I meet up regularly and go for long walks and talk about stuff. Kevin, the reason he writes is because he wants to go into his room and close the door and create this thing, this alchemy and this thing, and then emerge with a thing. And I find that quite gorgeous, that the ownership of what that was, and I'm just intrigued what rings true, or, do you know what I mean?
It was really interesting to me that you said you like work closely with one editor. That's really, how does that work? Like, how often do you show that person what you're doing?
Not super often. I'll send this, usually as I'm working on the script, which is just typed, I'll send batches of that, like a quarter of the book and then another quarter, and get feedback as I go. And then once I've drawn the whole thing up in thumbnails, we'll look at that as a whole. We'll sit down for a few hours and spread it all out.
So is it quite systematic?
Yeah.
In the sense of, I'll get this many pages and then kind of do it in?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So yeah, usually we have to decide on a page count.
Do you want more?
No, that's
But how did you meet?
He's my boss at the publisher I work for. So we already kind of knew each other. But actually, the way I got that job was through, he was interested in this book in the early stages and said, let me have a look at it if you like and give you feedback. And we were working on that a little bit before I even got the job working with them.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have someone whose opinion you trust.
That's the thing,
I was going to say, you must really...
Yeah,
that's the word,
when
isn't
he
it?
first gave me his initial feedback on this, I kind of thought every idea was really good, apart from one that I was dubious.
No, but it's interesting, isn't it? Like, because
always...
the trust has to work both ways in that sense.
Yeah.
Completely. So what? And so, Joff, you say that's not something that you is part of your process as much, or is it like so? It's not a relationship you have with one person particularly.
It's a relationship I have with like anyone who will look at it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty. You know,
and are they people that you go back to though?
Yeah, I think it's looking that way. Yeah, like I mean, I haven't made a huge amount of books, but there are certain people that I mean, you were talking about that, the idea of the appeal of the idea of like sequestering yourself away with the quill in the tower or whatever. And the concept of that I do like, and I do have to be like alone for, but it's really lonely if you're doing that like, for 3 months on end, in your pajamas or whatever. So, it's like a balance, whatever. And sometimes I'm just really keen to like, because I really don't have a clue if any of it is like makes sense.
Yeah, same.
If it's boring, if it's like annoying, if it's, potentially interesting. I don't know any of these things. I just feel completely like, a mole who can't even dig very well.
No, completely. Because but I don't think anybody could. I don't think anyone. You can't sustain that belief when you are in charge of it all. When you're orchestrating it all, it's not possible, right? So, like you're saying, the idea of trust, and I hear of. I've learned over the last few years being in like green rooms and yurts at these things, right?
Oh my God, that's the name of your memoir.
Yeah, but
green rooms and yurts.
Mate, it's really not. I mean, my worst environment, but just like kind of slightly horror stories of that being a relationship which it isn't full trust, but it's like a kind of sense of like, okay, this person knows more than I do, but then what you end up with is this weird kind of like mutant version of what you thought you wanted, but not really what someone else did, but couldn't really do that. So it's like that idea of kind of trust, and I guess. This is what I find this really fascinating, is that did you grow up with anybody who did this? Do you know what I mean? You talked about drums, you talked about being in the house with drums, dad drums, brother drums, right? Drums are there, I'm going to hit the drums at some point.
Yeah.
What I mean is it's like my family came from different places and they talked stories constantly. Nobody wrote, the idea, I never met a writer, whatever, everything, but there was always this kind of weird thing, this impulse or whatever else. Where did it come from? That's a massive question. But I mean, like, were you around things like this younger? Or was it like something that kind of you felt like was yours early on, or you found it? Or was there like a certain, do you see what I'm getting at? I think it's a big question, I guess, right? But I mean, do you remember like people showing you certain things or seeing someone or having a certain relationship, even if it was someone that was, in a classroom or something or anything else where it was just something switching on. Do you remember that at all?
I did have a very good teacher, and my parents were very encouraging of art stuff because they were interested in that and they wanted me to do it. But I had a really good English teacher. And
what level are we talking? We're talking secondary school or primary?
The end of primary school.
Amazing.
And he was brilliant because he would just have us read the craziest stuff like Samuel Beckett and Pinter and stuff.
Yeah.
We were like at primary school.
A 10-year-old Goddo.
Not in that he would be like, read this whole play, but he would take little sections and he would just set little exercises, like it would be a few sentences from one of those books and he would say, write the rest of the story or something. But that was a really easy way for a kid of that age to see that literature could be anything.
Can you remember his name?
He was called Mr. Timlin.
Go on, Mr. Timlin. Get in there brilliant. With your like amazing idea.
Yeah.
But was it a kind of thing where you had friends who like got as excited as you did, or did you feel like it was very much like, oh, this feels like just mine or something? I'm asking you to like,
I can't really remember.
No.
I think that lots of us enjoyed that.
Yeah. But that's 10, right? So 10 to a point where you're thinking about careers and things is later, right? So it's like, did it just something that was just bubbling there around other stuff, or was it always like part of your sense of where things would go?
I didn't have confidence in writing stuff. I was always kind of good at drawing, and I was always pushed in that to keep going with that. But I had to develop the confidence on the writing side, I think. Later.
And did that come from like trial and error? Did that come from other relationships at all, or was it like?
Well, I started working when I got into my illustration career, I started working as just a freelance illustrator. So I was illustrating other people's stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I had to push myself out of that.
Yeah.
Slight comfort zone because I always wanted to tell my own stories.
Yeah, completely.
As well.
No wonder you can draw tables.
I mean. But it's true. But it also, in a sense of it, it's that thing of like there must be people who, like you say, it's a good way. You can find yourself through that. But in essence, you are serving someone else's story as well to a degree. So you've got that fine line between enjoying that and getting those juices flowing from that, but also wanting your own. and not leaving it too long so you feel like you haven't got your own almost, you know?
Yeah.
Fair play then for diving out and making it an absolutely epic, gorgeous thing, right?
Timberland. Yes.
And how about you, Joff? Do you like, if we were to put it analogous in the sense of like, right, the drums were there, so I hit them.
Yeah.
Is there an equivalent or something where it was like, right?
Not nearly. Oh shit! I'm sorry. If I just I keep doing this thing. Is this the
Is he on?
plugged? I keep.
We're all right.
I think it's the. Is that right?
Keep going.
Have I broken it again? I've broken it
I want to
twice.
be filmed as well.
That's okay.
Yeah, you look good. You like.
We're not going to edit you out.
She's
It's
very
really here.
stylish. Sorry, TC.
It's all right.
Yeah, I'll just
Come on,
do
let's
that.
seamlessly go. So tell me about drums.
That's quite good. Drums by IKEA.
Yeah, but what if it breaks and we've got
I
to
know.
explain it,
It
right?
only might break.
So it-
The question. It's not as clear as the drum. That was very,
Yeah, of course.
sort of direct. The drums were there, so I played them.
But there wasn't like something that you saw. Maybe I've
I had
found that-
I had a good English teacher at secondary school. It's like the only teacher I didn't like totally
Yeah.
feel allergic to. I didn't have
Yeah.
a particularly good relationship with
Me
school
either.
or school education, but I did like I had like an enthusiastic English teacher, and I always kind of liked. I liked English more than I liked art at school because like the comprehensive school way of GCSE art was like I just didn't really get it, and I just was very lazy about it.
Ours was just Mr. Morgan falling asleep and handing you out charcoal. And
Yeah.
do some charcoal and then going to sleep. That's why I'm drawn
I want Mr. Timler, not Mr. Morgan. I'll choose him.
So not really.
No, really. No, I mean, like my parents were really both very encouraging. They'd say, "Oh, it's really good," But it was more drawing than writing. Yeah, very similar to Katriona. But I loved, films and books, and I loved anything that did. I mean, I wasn't thinking like I love story, but I guess I
No,
did.
but I guess what's interesting is a sense of like Katrina's saying that she had an awareness of quote unquote the industry, for want of a better term, of like I'm working with writers and I'm illustrating their work and I'm getting this job and I'm meeting people. So there's a sense of like okay, right. So if I've got an idea, maybe there's a potential path to a form and to get that out.
Yeah.
Whereas without those kind of relationships, like I remember it was so far away from the realms of possibility that there would be a book that was mine. Not in a sense of like like please. It was just like what are you talking about? Like how do you know? How does somebody who doesn't have those things get a sense that it's possible that you can? Does someone say to you, you should do this? Does someone say, have you ever thought about it? Or do you go, ooh, I like that. I think I have an idea that would.
I think it's like about sometimes it's a question of like format, like initially I thought like, oh, I could make films. And, in the 90s, I'm quite old, so it wasn't even like now where things are really accessible. You can do stuff on your phone and, it's really pretty exciting. It's over my head, but it's pretty exciting if you're there's lots of platforms you can put stuff on or you can make stuff with. But when I was a kid, it was like, cameras were really expensive and how do you do this? But I kind of I thought like, oh, maybe I could. And then I did actually get to try and make some, I got, use of some sort of camera or like at college or whatever. And I just realized it was really difficult to make anything, like I was just frustrated all the time, But
with the technical aspects of things, or
it was like, and I'm not very good with machines. Like, like even now, I don't have a phone. I'm really not very good at machines. I'm quite technophobic or whatever. So that was kind of a barrier. But I mean, I tried. I just made something, which was ultimately disappointing to me and
but how lovely
the world at large.
How lovely the idea of going right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this visuals. I'm going to make these things. You're like, oh man, hold on.
The pen.
I know the pen, and it's just, but that's to me that is gorgeous because that is like
it was a slow process, and it's only I'm only realizing how lucky I am to like be able to use pens now, and I love pens.
Yeah. Awesome. Right.
Sorry.
It's now 8. I've got 1, 2, 3 more bubbles.
Oh my gosh.
But
I haven't even finished on Community.
maybe I can. Have you not? We'll talk after. Right. I could. squeeze them in and segue them into a possible question. Does anybody here have something they would like to ask anyone that pertains to absolutely anything?
Read out your headings to inspire the audience who are probably just all really
All right,
hungry.
if you don't, I can do more. And then you can. What I'm saying is, I should have said it from the beginning. You could have done it from the beginning, but from now, at any point, literally just say. And this is a microphone that we can throw to each other.
I think right now they're thinking
speak
toasted
into it.
cheese sandwich.
Just speak into. Don't talk about food, please, Joff. I'm so hungry. Right, like. Can I give you this?
Oh
please?
yeah, we're gonna use this. This is so weird. Look at it.
Right, I should have thrown it.
That's
sorry.
a microphone.
The black bit is the microphone. Just because
otherwise we
we're
can't hear
recording
you
it,
at all.
and we'd love to hear your question. I'm sorry. Would you mind speaking into the black bit?
Oh, no.
Sorry. It's not mine.
This
I
is
didn't make
very
it.
bizarre. I wanted to ask both of you a bit more about process.
Okay.
And about, maybe specifically about reference. And if I think of Joff's at the driving short distances, and the characters, and particularly Keith, who is so...
Thanks for reading it.
That's great, but it's fantastically realized. And his whole sort of physical presence is so specific. And like his hands. I mean, if there was a supporting actor award, Oscar, for graphic novels, it would be Keith's hands. You know, because they're so kind of sausagey and hairy and expressive. Fantastic. What are you just creating him, or is that your uncle, or, you know, what's... and those are all those men. They are so physically specific and beautifully observed.
Thank you for saying so.
Where
That's
do you,
so
you know,
kind.
where do you get them from?
Do you nick them, Josh? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the initial, we were talking about like the seed or the very first idea or the beginnings, the very beginnings, was that one character was based on, initially, like we were saying, it kind of falls away, you know, and it becomes, the characters become themselves rather than like, you know, a biography of someone you once knew. But initially, it was the person who taught me to drive. And that's probably why a lot of it ended up being in a car. But then everything else about it. And he also had the short sleeve shirt and very well.
And the nose.
He was quite pustulant, but he wasn't that hairy. The hair just grew naturally, organically. The hair grew as it does. But so he was the kind of like impetus. But then how he ended up being was very different to this man. But he did have the same shirt that stayed from the guy who taught me to drive, and he did have like the shirt was very well filled, you know, very taut. The shirt was probably a couple of sizes too small, so that's the tension. That remained, and his actual character became, you know, pretty different. But and then all the men who were quite like him, that just the first thought was that I thought, well, there's Keith, but then maybe he's got loads of friends who are quite like him. You know, they're in this bracket of men. And then as soon as I had that thought, not as soon as I had that thought, but beginning with that thought, my eyes then were attuned to suddenly all these people who I'd never really noticed before, this demographic of, you know, older men, maybe in their 60s or 70s, suddenly, you know, they were like, I use that in the book. I said, suddenly I noticed that they were everywhere, these men. And then that's because I based that on, you know, like suddenly, you know, you just suddenly notice them everywhere. Like, so if I said, like, you know, purple scarf, I feel like a hypnotist. I feel like really powerful.
McKenna.
If I say purple scarf, tomorrow you'll probably see someone with a purple scarf. Email me. Get back to me if that's the case. And I'll feel really powerful. Sorry. Does that answer your question a bit?
Yeah, it does.
That's great. Are you from America?
Yes.
Are you from Texas?
Yes. How the hell did you know that?
I could tell by your voice. That's one of my few skills.
Well, it's because of Townes Van Zandt and all that.
Yeah.
I've lived here for 45 years, but quite clearly I haven't mastered the accent yet.
What is your town?
Austin.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
like the grooviest town in Texas.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, long time
Good
ago.
book.
When it was a little bitty town.
Does any of that, like,
Yeah.
you know, but stealing or not stealing, but like,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I think as Joff says, they kind of evolve a little bit, but often characters do start with someone that you know or that you've met, and so you have a vague idea. But you were talking about reference, I do kind of Google search for images that I think fit this character, and then I save them, and then I kind of play around
What kind
with
of thing comes up when you search those things? Like, it's not actual
It
faces,
would-
is it?
Yeah, I look for
Really?
faces. if I don't have a particular face
wow.
like in mind.
Google
So there's just like this
searching is really
FBI,
fun.
but there's like an FBI dossier of potential
Yes.
like features that you got to.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Actually, we work with Avery Hill. We work with an artist at the start of this year again, who said he uses police photo fits for character ideas because of the way you can switch the eyes and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So he does that.
Change my entire
It does sound like a
process
good
right now.
system. But yeah, I download loads of images and save them in folders, and then I think once you've started drawing it a few times, it develops in its own way a little bit, and you can leave the reference material behind a little bit.
And with yours, was your palette, did you work it out beforehand? Because it seemed a really appropriate palette for Mexico.
Yeah.
And did that happen to sort of evolve?
Well, it was always, Mexico's such a colourful place. I always thought that would be a really important part of the book, and to show the difference between different places by using colour. And colour to evoke moods at different times, emotional parts of the story and things. But yeah, definitely. There's travelling through Mexico, you'll come to a town where it's all like pink sandstone, and then you'll go somewhere else and it's completely different. So definitely had ideas for the colour.
I'd like to give this bomb to someone else now.
I think you did.
Thank you very much.
Great with it.
Does anybody have something that they want to? Amazing. You right?
I was catching.
This is weird,
Isn't
actually.
it weird? Sorry.
I think we should all have an opportunity to feel weird this evening.
Everyone has to ask a question just to use this amazing technology. Oh my gosh, no. I'm from Glastonbury. That would traumatise me.
I have had the opportunity to script a few comics, but in my context, I was scripting inside somebody else's world. So somebody else was plotting, and really the concepts were their concepts. Mm-hmm. So, and that's a very different thing, I think, almost entirely to what you're doing.
That would be fun.
And I just like part of a process. But am I right in saying both of you are kind of experienced, and all your experiences are in sort of entire, total control of your creation, or have you worked in another person's sandpit before?
Ooh.
Well,
To a degree, right?
I did do illustration commissions from people, but in terms of books and comics and graphic novels, no, it's always just been me. And that's also what we publish with Avery Hill. We tend to publish projects by single creators
Okay.
who are doing the whole thing themselves.
And that's like a choice. That is like a.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do many exist? Do you think? Do many exist? Whether it be co or like teams that you've generated and people know of, whose work is exciting.
I think there's plenty of
There must be,
people
mustn't
that
there?
collaborate that do really good
Yeah.
work.
But are there any that kind of like spring to mind, and people are like just because it is a fascinating thing to realise, because at some point, like you say, just like a thing would evolve,
'Cause-
your relationship to it would evolve as
Yeah.
well, right? So the ownership would become more shared, and the wing could
Because
spread.
in comics like the big Marvel comics and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
it's like a
all
writer, a
established,
colorist, a letterer,
characters.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
penciler. They're all different.
Yeah.
Using the Marvel method, so it's quite a different
Wow.
process, really.
So and they were like characters as well, that were
Yeah,
pre-existing characters.
so it's really.
That would be so hard.
So,
I'd
yeah.
just be so tempted. Like sometimes I watch EastEnders, which I'm not really a fan of, but like my friend watches it. Sometimes around the house and I watch EastEnders, and I think like, imagine if I got to write an episode of EastEnders, I could just like, you could just really, you could really mess things up, And make
Ian
it,
Beale just walks away. I don't know.
just like like you could lick a wall or something.
Yeah.
You could just like something which would be really interesting.
So is that a temptation? When you're sending us a vision that an idea comes in, like, I wonder if they'll notice. If I just, there's a dog. Where'd that dog come from?
Yeah.
Like, or a tiny horse.
Yeah,
right?
Spider-Man has asthma. No one knows.
I was generally working from realised artwork, so it was
Okay.
kind of so
even
I
more.
was essentially scripting.
Can I ask you a question then? Do you mind?
so
Sorry, what's your name? Sorry. Colin.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? As you're doing this, is it sparking your own ideas that you then put on the side, the back burner, when there's more time and stuff? Or does it feel like you're very much in the mode of, I'm serving this, so I will honour that?
I mean, the idea, I think, well, in this case, it was a collaboration, but I was still working in somebody else's universe.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. I think where you bring in sort of humour is a good way of bringing felt like a good way of bringing personality into it.
Yeah.
But because you're sparking off what you see, because humour is individual and personal, isn't
Exactly,
it? So
that's what I'm saying,
that's probably where I could feel I could bring some personality to it that otherwise Yeah, a lot of it you're working with characters that somebody else has realised, and so it's complicated.
Yeah, of course, it sounds it very much. And I don't know, when I say complicated, my brain is going, you could never do that, Stephen. Your brain, you wouldn't be able, do you know what I mean? Whether it was a defensive thing or whether that was, or an unfamiliarity with it, but that sounds really hard to me. That sounds very difficult, but fascinating, because I think that it's like people see it as something, but to you it's your version of the thing as well.
So in a sense, the plot is given to the concepts and the character synopsis are given to the artist.
Yeah.
And then the artist draws, and in the first issue I was working with the script that he was his world. He was the original writer.
Yeah.
So I was working with his script because it was all been lettered.
Yeah.
And then he brought me in because he felt he wasn't satisfied with what he was doing.
Right.
And so I'm working. You start off editing, and then gradually you get the training wheels brought off, and then you start doing it, putting in full script.
Yeah.
From.
I guess if there's a sense of quote unquote progression in it, or evolution with the relationship or the dynamic, then that feels like a different thing to just being kind of like, right, okay, do this and then please leave.
Yes.
You know, like there's something to be found in that, I guess, and discovery.
It's a long distance. I mean, so I don't want to take up the
No,
whole sort of question,
mate,
but there's
right.
long distance because he was in Chicago, well, he still is in Chicago,
Yeah.
so we're kind of working. We finally met, but it took a couple of years of working.
Well, to some people that would be a strength, I guess, and other people it would be very hard to be that far away. And other people would need to be that far away, I guess, in order to have that dance.
I guess so. But then we got the shared love of the medium.
Yeah,
so,
completely.
You know, so
That's wild.
Isn't it?
Jeez.
yeah.
Isn't it?
So, anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, anyone else want
Thank
the
you.
box?
Thank you.
Go on. We're too civil. It's good. Thanks, Colin.
Joff, I'm interested because you don't write a full script like Katriona does, and you don't plan the whole thing in advance necessarily. What do you
Did you
give?
see Katie's face? That was part confusion.
I don't
part
write a
distress.
script either. What do you give your publisher so that they know what you're doing?
I give them, I think both times I gave them the first few pages I'd made. And then I think one time they said, oh, can you give us like a page-long synopsis? But the page-long synopsis said, probably be more pictures, there'll probably be a few more backgrounds this time, and some stuff will happen with the dog. You know, it was quite a vague synopsis. And
The baddies win.
And they were like, well, not even that, you know. I said, it's good versus evil, big time. No, I didn't say that. I said, it was pretty vague. It was like, at the end, someone falls out of a tree. Probably. It was pretty vague.
They were like,
and they said,
we like it.
yeah, love it. You know. And they sort of rolled their eyes and said, okay. Yeah. But I like this sentence, still working in someone else's universe. That's my solo album. Thank you, Colin.
Was that an answer?
Is that okay? Can I answer, Katie? Any other?
Do you believe him? That's what I'm asking you. Do you believe him?
Did I answer it? Oh, what? It was a
I
two-part
think
question.
you must do more than that.
No, that is what I've done. I mean, this publisher in question, you know them.
Yeah.
They're pretty hands-off, right?
Yeah.
Quite hands-off.
Not in my experience.
Hey.
That's why I'm asking.
But it depends on exactly those dynamics
don't have
can be
social
so
media.
different between people, can't they? It's not that uniform.
Yeah.
Someone might go, right, it depends on what they think you need to do and what is restrictive and what else, I guess.
Yeah, it's really different from my experience. I didn't write a script like Kat did, but I had a really good relationship with my editor, and we sent lots of I think I storyboarded the whole book 5 times, sending it back and forth.
Yeah, but your book is...
They're books.
Your
You
book
realise
is...
that they're actual books.
Katie's book is very thick, and, you know, a lot happens in it, and it's like, you know, very, very deep stuff, you know. Not very much happens in mine. They're quite thin, and, you know, they're, you know, only so deep.
But 5 times?
Yeah, but, you know, that's...
Well, that makes sense to me, with knowing your book or whatever. That and it, you know,
But that's a
jumps around
totally
time.
different process. So would you then, having
At the
the
start,
publisher say, yeah, go for it, would you then go away and just do it and not have any
And then
feedback
3
until
years
the
later,
end?
I
That's
say,
nuts
oh,
to
this
me.
is okay.
That's what I do, though. That's what that happens with mine as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's against a personality thing where, like, once we've met, there'll be like little hints of, maybe we could get in a room and we can plot a bit. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And we go and we eat biscuits and we talk about plot a little bit. Then I leave. with nothing really. and then I go, just give me a date. And then I give me a date and I go and I generate 4, 5, 6 times more than I need to.
Wow, that's cool.
But it's not the same level of it's that or that. It's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I only have about 3 drawings I haven't used.
And
Well,
then
you said you
exactly.
had
Oh
loads
really?
about-
That's
yeah.
fascinating to me. You have 3 drawings you've never used.
Well, you know, there's not many that I sort of think like, oh, actually, I'll cut this whole, you know, like a proper novelist
yeah.
says I've moved, you know, like a fictional, you know, text novelist.
Was that the same for you as well?
Yeah, but you said you like.
There seems to be an economy in what you're talking about in different ways, but like.
Do you make loads of scenes? I mean, even if you're not probably drawing them because you said you're at the script stage, you're writing the whole thing. But do you script stuff that you like totally hack out?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Can I ask you this then in relation to that? In terms of like differences and possible similarities, if I'm creating a character, if I'm writing a story with these characters in, Mom is in this story, right? The way my brain works, I write Mom talking to absolutely everybody. I write things in Mom's head while she's brushing her teeth, none of which is going to go in, and I know that. Is there a visual equivalent of, you need to know what this person would look like if they found a winning lottery ticket, even though it's not going to be in it, just to know what that face would do in that moment?
People do that. I don't do that.
No?
I do it like maybe with some like
Because it's
with
a waste
text.
of time, or because it feels like frivolous, because it's pointless, or because...
Well, lots of people like say, oh, I just do, this is like a whole massive fat sketchbook full of drawings of this one character, and like they do character sheets. Well, that's more like an animator thing where you do all these character sheets for these expressions. But I don't do that because, you know, I just save it for the real thing, man.
No,
you know? I sound like a real twat.
No, it's right. It's interesting. Though. It's not, there's no right or wrong, but it is fascinating because maybe it's also character specific as well. It wouldn't be like, I just do that for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't do it for everyone. It's just some people, part of my brain wants...
Some people generate more material, more dialogue, and more like scene ideas than other characters.
Do you find that as well, Katriona? Like some people, it's almost not quite favourites, but really it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind of favourites, isn't
But
it?
I'm always very keen to not do any extra work
Yeah,
than I
there's
have
that
to.
too.
Yeah.
I don't do a lot of that, like you say, exploratory stuff around the, and then these character sheets that people do sometimes, and their character from different angles, and I just start drawing it.
But that's interesting because that's like that feels like you're both on the same page in that as well, and other people will be like, oh, I have to do.
Anytime I'll be on the same page as Katriona, I'll be pleased because you know
you're on the same page now, mate.
Aspirational.
I'm just saying. Sorry, I hugged it again there. Does anybody want the box with the thing?
Yeah, throw it.
Yeah?
Get it on camera, kind of cross, be like really cinematic.
Does anyone want it?
It'd be like the bone in 2001.
What? Can I have it then? Good throw, by the way. Right. We got a little. Is everyone all right?
Are you sure you don't want to ask a question? Like someone who we can have to really like.
We're just.
Any questions?
Don't smash it.
No, don't break it.
Right, because we've got like 10 minutes. Right? Can I go back to a couple of my bubbles just for my own personal selfishness? Yeah.
But can we just throw it anyway?
Yeah, go on. Who do you want to throw it to? So is anyone up for catching it? Amazing. Right, feels good.
Whoa! I feel like a sports person. Sorry.
It's all good. Right. Not interested in time. I've changed my mind about time.
Moving on from time.
Right. This is an interesting one of me because you've kind of answered it during the course of what you're doing. Right. Is mistakes, and I think I already maybe getting a sense of what you're talking about is. Even from the very beginning, there's an air of almost not wanting to eliminate them, but to kind of minimise the possibility of them because of the amount of work that goes into stuff. So much of my time is spent literally wandering while, you know, I'm getting emails from an editor going, like, ooh, but I'm just kind of wondering, I like this relationship. All right, mate. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of mistakes, in terms of... allowing for them or making them or what they mean in relation to the freedom of it. Because if the amount of work that goes into it is such a consideration, like how do you get to play if it? Do you know what I mean? If it all takes so long, does that feel like it's something that even comes into the head, or is it's important, or is it more just that doesn't even enter my head at all? You so you said so clearly there, so some people have a big sketchbook full of stuff. I'm not doing that. I want to get to this and save my energies and for this. And you were saying as well, Katriona, right, I want to know, I don't want to be doing all that, I want to be doing this. So does that even something that even crosses your mind, or is that just something that or it doesn't?
sometimes worry. I think you're always paranoid when you hear about someone else's method and you think, oh, maybe that I'm wrong for not doing that.
I feel like that
But-
right now.
But yeah, when people do all this really exploratory work, I always think maybe I'm missing out on something by not.
And do you ever, and when you have those thoughts, do you ever go, all right, this week I'm
gonna
going to
try.
play. I'm going to play with that. I'm going to do, I'm going to do them eating 14 different types of chocolate or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't draw. I can't draw, mate. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, is there?
Yeah.
What? Because what's interesting is having more than one project and starting on this one now about the cinema, and that people have the urge to do difference, but then also keep hold of the essence of the kind of the voice of who you are and things, and there are going to be similarities stylistically potentially. How conscious of you are you? How conscious are you of trying to do what you haven't already done, or does that not, or do you not really? Do you know what I mean? Is it just this is the idea, I'm running with it. I'm not even thinking about I'm trying to break my, mold or whatever. Does that even? Do you ever think about that stuff?
Yeah, I think definitely I want to do different things with each project.
And how will that translate, do you think? How is it translating in your mind at this early stage?
Are you really keen to make like a different drawing style or colour palette?
That's what I mean.
Well, I think drawing style is tricky. I don't know if I'd be able to change that too much, but I am doing, there's different things. Like my next one is black and white.
Oi,
Yeah.
okay,
So
that's
that's
huge.
one change.
That's huge, though.
Yeah.
This is so
Exactly.
colour oriented.
I mean, I do, I look at people's work that I like and I analyse, is there anything that I think would improve my work that I can learn from this person?
Yeah.
Because you can't really start trying to draw like other people.
Yeah,
and
no,
that just doesn't work.
But you can play with-
elements, you
yeah,
could say,
completely.
I really
can use
like
different
how
materials,
expressive
whatever.
this is and mine's
Yeah.
too rigid, and so I might try and make those
But that's
changes.
fascinating because to me
That's
that
a
makes
really good
perfect
way to
sense as an impulse. Is an impulse that I only trust, but I'm attracted to. Is that sense of like, right, here is this rich, dense, colourful thing. Right, whatever I'm doing next, I don't know what it is. It's monochrome. That I can fully relate to. And whether further down the line, colours start creeping in and demanding the presence of there's red now. Shit, there's red. Do you know what I mean? Like that could happen. But that initial impulse to do different or break new ground or whatever, that sounds a bit lame. But do you know what I mean? Like, is that something that you feel, Joff? Like even to that degree of like that's something as simple as right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parameters are really helpful, I think. Like, like that's the only way I got started making this because I always thought like, comics are just too hard. I like to read comics and I like stories and I love to draw. I was always like drawn all the whole time. And people would say, you hate doing animated films because you've done them and they're like not that good and you hate doing them and you're not happy with them. Just comics, and I thought, well, comics would be easier than that. But I just, I couldn't face working out how to like tell the story and all these different. But then I thought I'd just do it like, Peanuts, Charlie Brown or whatever, just do it. And then that was, it has a container and you don't actually, there's a whole process that you don't have to think about. So I thought I could tell it like that, I could do it like that, and I could just do it. And then I was thinking, but I don't know how long to make each scene. I just sort of make it a page. So in that, they're all like, it's very episodic. It's got its drawbacks and its limitations, but it's also, a way of telling a story, and you can, it's just as, valid as a...
But it's a language, isn't it, I guess, that you choose.
Yeah.
And then you push when you want to and not. So with that in mind, Katriona, like in relation to this and like the step outs, and does it feel like it's more of a story that you are kind of watching unfold or rather than being at the centre of it as much?
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, because also all the little zines that I made up until the point of making this book, they were mostly autobio-based stories anyway. And to me, that's my comfort zone, and I find it very easy. And I just think, that was a funny thing that happened. I'll make that into a comic or whatever. And then you already have you've done a certain amount of the plotting. It's kind of there. It's just how you're going to depict it.
Yeah.
So I definitely wanted to do something which is fictionalized, although this most
It's
of it
inevitable,
comes
though, isn't
from
it?
my
Yeah, like how
life
much
anyway.
of this book is like memoir?
All of it.
Is it? It's totally. And
Yeah.
are you called you in it and everything?
Yes.
You called, okay.
And to me, that's not. People feel differently about it. To me, that's easy because you have a starting point, like you were saying, and you kind of have these parameters to the story. So I was quite scared to do one that wasn't based on my life. But it's also a lot more fun. I'm finding so far.
Well, it's that thing, isn't it? That sense of like people talking about making stuff on one level to figure something out, and like there's another quote about life being backward. It can only be viewed backwards, but it has to be lived forwards. Yeah. And that sense of like, right, I'm here now. I need to get this out to go there now. And so that kind of liberation, go right, what can I do? That's so exciting, right? And like I trust that like you're going to be in it all anyway, even the empty spaces, right? But I think that there's that drive is what I find fascinating. Whether it's in music or whether it's going, okay, this album is completely different to that one, and me being a little bit annoyed to start with, and then the more I listen to it, the more it becomes my favourite thing in the world.
I was really being neurotic about, which I'm quite good at, a bit about making my new story. I was like, but I think people will, like they'll only like the first one, they won't like this
is
new
what
one.
I wanted to get at, Joff.
And then my friend, he used that analogy. He said, like you like records, right? You like Bob Dylan, or you like Sleater Kinney. But, there's one record you like more than the other one, but you still really like them. And I thought like, and then I suddenly thought like the idea of someone not liking this new thing that I was making. And I thought, and it made sense. And I thought, it made me really relax. It was really useful in my tiny mind, that only understands like rock music.
Well, my cousin always does. When I'm, there's always a point, you talked about this 2 week in. I was so excited at the beginning, like 2 weeks in or a month in or whatever. I'm like, this is going to be awful. My cousin always just goes, Bjork.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's like Bjork.
Yeah.
That's
like a one-word version.
I'm like, and I know what he means, but it just being that thing of like, if you don't trust in the difference or you trust in the departure, then you're just on the same bus.
Maybe
right?
Bjork is the patron saint of, like
I think so.
Artistic bravery.
I think maybe. I'm
dressing up as a swan.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But yeah, all right. Does anybody else want to ask anything before I like smoothly wrap this? Look what I've done. I've put my leg up like.
Mike Parkey. Does anyone else want to dress up as a swan?
I will. Would anyone else like to ask anything before I kind of wrap this up? I could talk for much longer, but we're going to be around for a little. Can we chat off camera if it's less intense? Does anybody? He's so eager. Yes, Colin's going in. Go on, Colin. Do it.
I wanted someone further.
Just a kind of observation, Joff, on driving short distances, but also kind of wondering about the difference between conventional literature, if you like, and the graphic literature. Yeah. Just something that struck me when I was reading this, that quite a few of because you seem to have a first-person view, or I don't know if this is the thinking, but a lot of the panels you're seeing the world through the son's eyes, it seems, because you're then giving his viewpoint of his father in your drawings. I don't know if it's conscious or unconscious, but I don't see it the other way around. But in a novel, it's very obvious because you're writing the first-person narrative and all that. But it's actually I read quite a bit of it, and then it struck me you were doing it, so it's quite subtle. And I don't know whether I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to make an observation, I suppose, on the difference between different forms of writing, and whether how one is more unconscious when you're reading it than the other. Does that make sense? If even I'm seeing something that's real, but does that make sense at all?
It can do.
No, but I mean, touching on that, there's something to my mind that comes from that, which maybe is the sense of being in someone's head and seeing them. Is not something. If I'm reading a novel, if the author has chosen to write in the head and in the first person, then I'm seeing the world. Yeah. But if I'm simultaneously seeing the world and your interpretation of it through text, and I'm also seeing you, in terms of the judgment and who I'm with and who I'm not with and what I'm allowed to infer. Yeah. There's more to deal with there, right? Or is that? Do you know what I mean? Is that something that's even?
I do. Whenever I read a book like written in the first person, like Katriona, that's in first person, isn't it? Like it's weird because you don't, everyone else you see what they look like, but you never really, because you're just in Holden Caulfield's head. You don't think like, he looks like this. You just, you think of about wearing a hunting cap, I suppose, but you don't really have a picture of what he looks like because he looks like you, I suppose, but he doesn't really look actively like you, but he does. You're in his little eyeballs. So it's like a mixture of that, and then obviously having to put. I can't just draw everything. I mean, people probably, I'm sure, have. They made that film Lady in the Lake, like a Philip Marlowe, and it was all like POV, and everyone, all the audience was like, "Oh God, I feel seasick." You know, they hated it. You know, it was sort of like a gimmick that Hollywood sort of quickly buried. That which was all like POV, and I think there's one bit where like looks in the mirror and you see like some anonymous actor who wasn't very famous. So that's an interesting question about viewpoint and perspective.
I suppose if you're reading conventional, superhero comics and things, you almost never get that perspective because it's always the viewer is always seeing all of the action, not from
as an overview always,
Whereas in the case of this, it struck me that quite a bit of it is actually this is what the character's seeing.
Sometimes it's just because I like doing things like drawing someone's elbow, so it's like quite a sort of macro.
But isn't it, there's something fascinating. There are a bunch of panels that do this and a bunch of sequences that do this, where what you have is you have the image of the person, you have the thought of the person, you have dialogue involving the person with another person in it, right? And if we were at school now, or we were at college, and we were going in on like they made us do with film stuff at college, they'd be like, look at what he's doing here on 7 different levels at once, right? And you're like, right.
I've got more like 1.5
Dude,
levels.
I've just told you 7. You've got to take the 7. But I mean, like, we got to stop. We have to talk about that afterwards.
Okay.
Right? Or get in touch with him.
Email
People
me.
who are streaming, Becca.
How did they tell you? Did they go like this?
No. I've just got to look at the clock.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Thank you for streaming, wherever you're streaming.
Thanks, libraries.
Big thanks to Joff and to Katriona and to everybody here. We can chat a little bit, I guess. Some people got to run off, but I'm Stephen Camden. We've got another one coming in November where I'm talking to Kieran Hurley and Inua Ellams about writing for the stage and being a person who writes for yourself as well as other people to perform. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice one.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, guys, for listening.
Thank you.